We are live. So it is. All right. Good evening, everyone. It is 6:01 p.m. on Tuesday, October 14th, and I will call to order the regular meeting of the Millwood City Council. Kenzie, can you do a roll call for us this evening?
Sure. Councilmember Beasy. Here. Councilmember Culler.
Present.
Councilmember Sander.
Present.
Councilmember Van Hees.
I am present.
And Councilmember Stravens.
Here. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum of all 5 council members, and Councilmember Van Hees is attending remotely this evening by audio only. So if we would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Kyle, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have a rather robust agenda tonight, especially for items for first reading. I will note to council that we do have an executive session of 30 minutes, but we will be departing this room, going downstairs. So at that point, we'll have to take Andy offline and just have him. He'll just come with me on my phone, and we'll take him that way. So at this time, does any member of the council desire to make changes, amendments, additions to tonight's agenda? Not seeing or hearing any motion that way, so do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the agenda is approved unanimously. And so tonight we have our first presentation, which is our Spokane Valley Fire District quarterly report. Was to be given by Chief Frank, but we have Ken here tonight, so please.
All right. So for the sake of time, I see that you guys have a pretty good agenda. What if you want, we could go into just the Millwood section and just talk about Millwood specifically.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay. So if we scroll through there, it's probably about 5 slides. Okay, so as you can see, most calls in your community, and I know you guys are aware of this, that most of the calls are medical, and that's pretty normal. What you do see there is the fires that you have in the community. Throughout the summer, we've had quite a few fires along the trail, and structure fires as well. So this year, we actually are seeing an increase overall throughout the department, but in the valley here, in the Millwood here, you've had a 0% increase, so it's staying pretty steady, which is good. Next slide. So Valley Engine 2, you'll see a couple different apparatuses in there, and that's because they might be covering for Valley Engine 2 when they're, let's say, on another call. And so what happens is if they're called away to an intersection or something that's just outside, then they'll backfill with another apparatus. And so that's why you'll see that. So total responses last month were 37, and then for last quarter, 127. And these are a good way to kind of see where your calls are coming from, and those of you that are very familiar with your neighborhood can look at those and determine probably what those locations might be. And so typically, we know that most of those calls are medical in the community. So you could guess that area that has 18 and 13s could be care centers that are in the community. And so if we zoom in on the actual program itself, those of you that have access, you can actually zoom in, and that starts to spread apart. And then calls over the last 3 months, you can see the last month it was a little less. And so those are pretty small numbers in the scheme of things. And down at the bottom, you'll see that the 0% in the last year's total call volume. So we're hanging steady here in the community, and so that's good for you guys to be able to report back to your citizens that the community is sitting pretty good as far as emergencies in the community. So there's nothing that's really getting worse. And so as you make improvements to public works in the community, a lot of times we'll see that direct reflection into the call volume itself. So public works makes a big impact on safety on the streets. So, any questions? Okay, I believe that's the last slide.
Any questions from council? Ken, thank you very much for coming out. We appreciate you taking the time to abbreviate your presentation.
You're welcome, and also I will say that this Friday we're going to be lifting the burn ban, so I'll be sending out some additional information to make that part of the community. And then that'll be a document that the mayor signs. So, all right, thank you very much for your
Thank you. So our other presentations tonight, we have two. Our first is the Millwood Water System Capital Improvement Plan update. Ashley Williams and Sandy Faulkner from Welsh Comer. Ashley.
Thank you. So I will also try to be as quick as I can. So I think introductions, you know me, Ashley Williams with Welch Comer Engineers. I have Sandy Faulkner with me as well. And we've been working with Matt on this update to the CIP that we presented, I think it was back in April. Okay, next slide. Next slide. So the purpose is to just update you. We did a couple follow-up tasks, and so we wanted to update the CIP and get some more feedback from you on those items. So next slide. What we've been working on, we've done leak detection on the cast iron pipe. No major leaks have been identified or major concerns. I think as we talked about before, we're not necessarily going to see a steady leak on those. They kind of catastrophically happen. So at least we're not really seeing that, you know, something right now that we need to deal with. Did a meter calibration. We had a detailed meter report, and that was on the larger meters. Our production meters are reading slightly high, about 10 gallons per minute total, and then large customer meters are reading also slightly high. So not really a big difference there. We were kind of hoping that maybe, you know, one was reading higher than the other, and that would kind of help reduce that loss that we were seeing, but it does appear that that's not a factor there. We did do an interior inspection on the standpipe. Good news there. There's really very few rust spots, otherwise in very good condition. The feedback from Tnemec, which is one of our major coating suppliers, said that it's in really good condition. They would just plan for relining in about 3 to 5 years. So that helped refine that a little bit. Next slide. So really the revisions to the CIP would be that the cast iron may not be needed addressed immediately, but certainly something on the radar in the next 3 to 5 years to begin in the next 3 to 5 years. The tank coating, I think, also can be pushed a little bit, 3 to 5 years before you need to tackle that one as well. The current CIP funding available, this hasn't changed from the last time, but $64,000 per year, and we're assuming a 3% annual inflation. So I'm just going to update those tables that we talked about last time, and I'll go through them somewhat quickly. So next slide, please. So for your 5-year, this hasn't really changed. We've delayed a couple things. The CIP, the cast iron, as well as the tank coating moved out just a little bit, but generally pretty similar in that 5-year plan. And then we've been coordinating with Matt on a few things on target for next year as well. Okay, next slide. That 10-year also hasn't really changed a whole lot. We have that exterior tank coating. It may be that at the time that we're ready to do that, We may talk about doing the interior and the exterior kind of at the same time, but we can refine that as we get a little closer. I don't think there's really any other changes there. So next slide. 20-year, again, you'll see kind of the same things, but this is like round 2 of them in that 20-year period. So as those lives kind of come to an end, we need to redo them again. So they are there. And then next slide. So when we talked last time, we always like to try and start with the pay as you go. So as you have your existing funds that you're using, can we use that to tackle our CIP? You can, but there would be a pretty steep increase that would be needed to try and keep tabs on that over time. And again, that would be trying to do the cast iron, every other year for the next 15 years, starting in about 3 to 5 years for the next 15 years. So that got a little better because we delayed a few things, but it's still a pretty big hit, as you can see. Yes.
Ashley, just to be clear,
Yes.
Is that a annual rate increase per annual or month?
Monthly.
That is a monthly rate increase.
Yes. Yep. Okay. And then on the bottom there, I just like to include, what that looks like when you go out that 20-year time frame, what that could get up to from today's rate, obviously. So, next slide. So I think as we talked before, that's probably pretty unpalatable for a lot of people. And so can we look at some other funding options such as loans? Public Works Board offers 20-year loans at pretty low rate because of Millwood's demographic. We also have DWSRF, which you have used before. So we looked at 3 different loan options, just trying to tackle the main replacement only. We do that for the main replacement and the tank coatings. And then if you layer on assuming that eventually when you need to replace the tank, you would use loan funding for that as well. Okay, next slide. So if we just try to tackle the main replacement with loan funding, you can see I kind of delayed that out to 2028. Still kind of a larger impact to the monthly rate increase. So if you go to the next slide, this gets a lot easier when we assume that we're going to be doing the main replacement and the tank coatings. You'll kind of see I've done 2 different loans there. So one in 2028 to start working on the main replacement, and then one in 2030 that would do the tank coatings. We could do 2 different loans. You could maybe do 1 loan and start a little bit earlier. That's really an option we could look at. But you can see that's a lot, a little bit nicer of a ramp up to where you would need to cover that debt payment. So that would be starting at $3 next year. And then, it still gets pretty expensive later on because we're assuming you're trying to save up to pay cash for the tank replacement. But again, maybe on the next slide, it might be more reasonable. Next slide, please. There we go, okay. Where if we plan that eventually when you get to that stage that you would be using loan funds at that point, then you can kind of keep that rate pretty reasonable throughout the next 20 years, assuming all of those things, inflation, all those items stay the same. So, okay. Next slide. So really, that is it for us. We wanted to provide you with an update. I think our question for you, any modifications to that CIP, anything further you want us to investigate, and or do you want to keep looking at grant loan options? Really, I think we could use next year and have a pretty healthy year to look at those things, make applications, and that way we could potentially have funds in 27 or 28 when you're ready.
So, just a couple things. From your, from what you know, what does it look like though in Olympia that they are going to load into that funding? Because
Yeah,
I mean, we're banking on the idea of something that
may not.
may not be there.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. That's a good question, and really I don't know that a whole lot of people know at this point.
Too early.
Yeah.
Too early.
Unfortunately.
I think you should plan on it not being available and be happy if it is. That's probably the safest, most conservative funding plan, but it's too early to tell if it'll be funded and if it will, at what levels and where you are sitting.
The other option too, we can kind of broaden out the funding sources, so we can look at some other options that we don't typically look at. Maybe there's some like financing or some other things we can check into.
We can bond it.
Bought it.
But even then, now you've got to place the bonds. These are 20-year loans, and you're looking at, like, even on the last one, you're looking at 3 20-year loans,
Just do.
2 20-year loans.
Well, and an eventual third one for the tank replacement, but that would be in like 30 years, 20 or 30 years when you would actually replace that tank. If we keep up on the coatings.
Do we know what the loan payments look like on that?
On the tank.
Well, I mean, like, we still have a monthly loan payment we've got to make back for 20 years.
Right, yes. I don't have them right with me, but I can find it.
Actually, what's our percentage on a loan like that? Is it just generally speaking?
Right, so, I mean, the Public Works Board is really definitely your best loan, because we have the hardship component of it. I think for bonding, we're probably seeing, I don't know, Brian, I think we were seeing like 4 to 6%.
Yeah, depends on your credit rating. I mean, if you're in the market a lot, you might be in a 3, but you're probably 4-ish, 5-ish pop probably. General obligation bond to the cities, although a revenue pledge is always the better option, but a revenue pledge might get you a little bit better credit rating. But you're not in the market as much, so you're deemed to be not risk, but not a known commodity in the bond market.
Ashley, I really appreciate you providing this pay-as-you-go because it really provides the nice baseline that we can measure all these other strategies against. I mean, you can see there's clearly around an approximate $30 difference per person, per household or unit per month. But that's based off of the 1.71. If that goes away and we start getting into a bonding system or 4 or 5 or 6%, that margin narrows very quick.
Sure.
Very quickly.
And that's what we're happy to run those other options just to see where does that land, those projected rates.
Dan, please.
I think, the Public Works Trust Fund is state dollars that gets reassigned. But the SRF is a combination of federal dollars, but it's also loan repayment dollars, because we've had SRF for a long, long time, and those loans, the loan we're paying back is available. That money is going to be available. So it's not up to the legislature to say, no more spending, but because that's earmarked for SRF. So I think we should go ahead and finish our water system plan with the thought of applying for SRF for some of the more immediate things, the interior painting, perhaps some of the upgrades we need to make to the buildings and the pumping stuff, and keep our cash for those main breaks, because we don't know when they're going to happen next, but we need to have our dollars available to go do that. And so I think we should apply for the SRF and Public Works and see what happens. The SRF last year they had money left over.
But what agency at the federal level does the SRF come out of?
EPA. Well, the federal dollars for SRF comes from EPA. But the state money is just within the state.
Yeah, but at this point, I'm not holding any hope that you're gonna have a viable funding source at the federal level.
long term, who knows? But the state money is available. So if you don't ask, you're not gonna receive. And it doesn't cost, it costs a little bit to fill the applications, but it's not tens of thousands of dollars to make an application. But we need to have an in-out water system plan, and that's the number one priority, is finish up that water system plan, identify what we need to do, and then make those applications and see what happens.
So does the,
Uh,
go ahead.
How many water main breaks did we have last year? Did we have just the two on Liberty, or was that the year before? That was last year?
Yeah, last year, yeah. Nothing this year.
I'm just saying.
It's not called yet.
All I'm saying is that kind of drives the timeline on the replacement of those mains.
Yeah, like I said, I think you can probably delay it a couple of years, but it needs to be on the radar, I would say.
So, does council feel that we have enough information from what Welch has put together here to actually go ahead and finish off the water system plan update? Or do we want to see what it would be look like with bonding or anything else? Or do we just want to get this done and look at our state funding, our two funding sources, our Public Works and SRF, and get the plan done and get it turned in?
I kind of like us finishing the plan with these lower, more stable funding mechanisms. And then we can model off these other ones, but honestly, the margin's gonna close so quickly, it's almost, I think, competitive to pay as you go at that point. Cause you're taking, well, we'll model it when the time comes. What is your thinking?
I agree. I think it makes sense to water mains priority, coating second, and let's see what we can do with state funding. Let's finish the plan.
Yeah, let's finish the plan, but you actually prefer lining before the main, is that what I heard you say?
I think the interior tank needs, we need to, that should be done within 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years.
But if we apply, we're not gonna be able to apply until next year. We officially apply with approved plans until next year anyway. That money takes another year to get out from hands, and that might be in the fall, which we can't paint until the summer anyway. So we're talking 3 years at the best.
Obviously, it's your decision, but I do think one of the things is that whatever rate structure is considered, we should have enough money to line our tank. Because the tank is the big ticket item no matter what. And that tank lining can't wait. We need to make sure that we've got enough money in the fund that if we hit 3 to 5 years, we can line that tank, regardless of if we get a loan or not.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because
And then use it as a backup for breaks in the meantime.
Well, I get, yeah, because I would hate for us to end up deferring maintenance on the tank and shorten the life of the tank, and then that really puts the city in a pinch.
I agree. I think the tank needs to be there. And that's what we need to. But a good point, Mr. Mayor, is that regardless of that, that could be the plan. But we also need to build our reserves. So we know our reserve, we have those dollars. Because it also, in order to get some of those loans, you're a better chance getting the loan if you've got some cash to put in the pot. So that will only help us in the funding evaluation also. So I don't know what direction we just gave you there.
Well, I heard that we finish up the plan with the improvements outlined, and then I think we work on some other funding sources and refine that approach early next year. I would say, even with those loan options and those debt payments not coming into effect until 2028, I'm still projecting that we need to start doing some increases so that you're ready for that and it's not a big hit at one time.
I think the best thing would be look at what the tank coating is going to be, at least just the interior, and build the rate structure such that we have accumulated enough in the fund that at the latest at year 4 we can line that tank.
Okay.
That sounds good.
I know we're conceptualizing these as two different plans, but does this, if we move forward with this, change this at all?
Yeah,
So I mean, I think that we kinda need to model that, don't we?
well, I think that holding her off on that,
Okay, fair, that's fair.
I mean, the only.
It's added.
Yeah, the only thing that would do would just decrease, then in 26, you don't have to take as much, you could always adjust your rates down.
I think this is easier to vote on though when we understand the true impact that it in fact will not raise the rates or to what degree it won't raise the rates is all I'm suggesting is as we move forward, if we could do even some preliminary modeling that would give us a moving target of, because I think then it becomes easier to understand why we would move forward with something like this.
Multiple models, is that what, different
Yeah.
multiple
One
models
other
to
thing
evaluate.
we did in presentation, but in we also talked about the pump house roofs and maintenance.
Yes,
And I think those are also things, we will need to protect our material, our facilities, so that needs to be upfront too.
yes, and I think,
I think that was, but I think
Yeah.
that's just confirmation of your thoughts that we want to protect what we have.
yes, yep. Yeah, Matt has a few of those in line for next year, so,
Good.
yes. Okay.
Any other questions for Ashley? Andy, do you have any questions for Ashley? Are you there,
Not
Andy?
at this moment, Mayor. I don't think I do.
Okay. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Did you need me to stay for anything
No,
else?
please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, that completes that. So now we have a presentation from Ariane Schmidt, who is the Executive Director of Broadlink, which is the Spokane Regional Broadband Development Authority. Ariane, thank you.
Wonderful, and in the spirit of brevity, I will keep mine short. You guys are busy folks tonight. This is really a first introduction. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here and share a little bit about what Broadlink is. Next slide, please. So Broadlink is a public development authority, and that is a form of special purpose district, not unlike S3R3, the Northeast PDAU district. And in late 2022, the Spokane County Commissioners had a decision to make. We were just coming out of COVID, and they realized those with adequate internet fared better if they could work from home, learn from home, receive other services from home than those that didn't. And as really a tidal wave of federal funding, very similar to like the Eisenhower era of the physical highways, really a tidal wave of funding looking to build digital highways was coming, they had to make a decision. Did they want to create a Spokane County broadband department? Did they want to link arms with a certain number of private internet service providers as legally allowed and then get what they get and don't throw a fit type of a thing? Or did they want to create an entity that got up every morning with that mission and purpose? And they chose number 3. And that is how Broadlink was born. So we have statutory authority for all 1,700 square miles of Spokane County. We're actually only one of 2 PDAs that does allow for that. And we oversee the funding mechanisms. We are a separate government entity. I report to a board of 5. That is a county commissioner, currently held by Commissioner Cuney. It is a representative of small towns and cities that currently is occupied by Mayor Terry Cooper of Medical Lake. A representative of large towns and cities that is currently occupied by Councilmember Michael Cathcart. And then Spokane County CEO Scott Simmons and Public Works Director Kyle Tuig. Our membership is limited to the 13 towns and cities of Spokane County and the unincorporated area. And so, again, the introductions here is for you to learn about Broadlink, what we've done, really what our purpose is, and based on additional conversation, do you see this as something that could be valuable for Millwood going forward? So, next slide, please. So, as I mentioned before, broadband is really becoming new essential utility. I use that word lightly because it's not regulated and we don't want to go there, but really a household needs clean water, we're all spoken tonight, they need electricity, but now we're realizing that what you need to do, broadband has become a part of that. Next slide, please. So you have, I believe in your packet, or I sent to the mayor our strategic plan. This goes into a lot level of detail But I just wanted to make that available to you. Again, I would love to come back as you look at next steps of consideration, but this is available. Next step. These are the different areas that we are involved in. And I'll give you some examples of what we have been doing the last 3 years that has intersected that digital access, the remote learning, workforce development, public safety, economic development, all in partnership, not only with our member cities, but we're really coming alongside the private sector, particularly in rural areas, and I know we're not sitting in one, but there is a connect. There is a need to jumpstart what's stalled in the private capital arena. There just wasn't a return on revenue to get the internet there, and that's really what those public dollars are meant to jumpstart. Next slide, please. So again, as we go forward, particularly in the rural area, there's two barriers. There's the one-time capital and there's the ongoing M&O. Interestingly enough, I will share about some things that we're doing in the urban core that help with those M&Os as well. Next slide. So again, these are some things that we've done over the last 2.5 years. I won't go into details on those, but if any of those kind of pique your interest, I'm happy to have another conversation as we look at your consideration going forward. Next slide, please. So the first thing is we were actually selected by the state for a $6 million pilot to look at a concept called cellular on wheels, or we affectionately call them COWS. There is a link to a video of this. This is actually currently in place right now at Fire District 3. That whole quadrant of the county is a digital desert. Chief Johnson will know those apparatus were using pagers. They didn't have the mobile data computers that Valley Fire has. They didn't have the awareness. So not only that, but the households there, we literally packed up these towers that have a lifespan of 20 years, but can also be packed down and moved somewhere else. That pilot was very successful, and I'm proud to share in another announcement has now become a standard for budget and scope submissions across the state and in the nation for broadband deployment, because people need internet now as you're building those long-time constructions of whether it be fiber optic cable or more fixed installation on standard towers or even water towers like we were talking before. Next, please. I did want to briefly touch, just because of my friend here from Valley Fire, we've also been very involved in emergency engagement. The cellular on wheels that I talked about were literally right off of a just-in-time manufacturing plant out in the West Plains, and the Grain Oregon fire broke out. We had, as you guys know, 2 simultaneous 10,000 acres fire burning. The one in Medical Lake went through Eastern State Hospital and Lakeland Village, burning 3 redundant fiber paths and 1 backup wireless path to the DSHS electronic patient care reporting system on the west side. So you had 300 shelter-in-place, high vulnerable individuals that they didn't have access to their medical records. Within 6 hours notice, and working with the department, our local Department of Emergency Management, we deployed our first cow. It ended up being 4 cows out there. 1 stayed through November of that year at Silver Lake because all of the houses there didn't have connectivity. Next slide, please. So again, these are things that broadband is more than just what you do every day. This is about being a public entity. All of the things that we acquire are public assets that are then meant to use for public benefit. Next slide, please. Again, we also had lots of work with FEMA in the Oregon fire, and in fact, you can see that triangle up at the top. It's a very long and involved and quite frankly tragic story that the entity responsible for what burned there did not step up, and so on our own dime, we deployed one of those cows up there because those folks had no phone, no internet, no way for the case management to get there. But that cow is basically sending wireless connectivity free of charge to anyone in that area until we get to the long-term build-out that will bring more fixed fiber optic cable and fixed wireless long-term. Interestingly enough, FEMA, although it's in a very interesting, as Mayor pointed, adventure along with the rest of the federal government, really saw that communications does span more than first responders. So they're actually opening up the 1970s FEMA reimbursement tables because of this example, so that going forward, not unlike what happened with hurricanes in North Carolina, they understand this is a part of service delivery. Next slide. The one thing I do want to share with you, and go ahead and pass these along, this is a very interesting exercise that was done in March of 2023. We were the only ones in the nation that did this. And we have a very robust E911 address system. My background is public safety, and so when you call for help, the dispatchers verify where you are, and that helps the trucks go where. The federal government was using something called a fabric, or the address map, to decide who lives in the U.S. and what is their level of internet today. And they had a very short window that they gave all the states an opportunity to say, did we miss some? And the states were really scratching their head to decide, how in the world are we going to figure out, how do we map, we figure out if we miss some? We decided that if you can call 911 for help, that's probably a good baseline for a place that needs internet. So we overlaid what the FCC, or the Federal Communication Commission, said were addresses on top of our 911 database, and we told them, yeah, you did miss some. You missed 20,000. The federal government took 100% of those. The result of that was what came into Washington State's rubric for funding. We raised 3 percentage points from $900 million of anticipated funding that is reflected in the map I showed you to $1.24 billion. So again, these are exciting things. Next slide, please. We received a National Achievement Award from the National Association of Counties for that, which was really exciting and just shows the benefit of partnership across sectors in the local area. Next slide, please. So before I go on to that, what you are seeing right now is the result of the Broadband Equity and Access and Deployment Funds. So that $1.24 billion was chopped up into about 230 polygons across Washington State. Spokane County had 24, and we were slated for about 10%, or $120 million of that $1.24 billion. That whole adventure is coming to a close, thankfully, and even with the government shutdown, this allocation is separate from congressional appropriations. It has been cleared from some of the initial reviews by the current administration, and it is still set for payout with an end date of 2029. So what I'm telling you right now will be done by 2029 unless some large federal adjustments made. So at the end of the day, although Broadlink did apply for all 24 areas, we won the provisional awards that we're just starting the contracting process with for 13, which totals about $90 million. So what you're seeing here is Millwood's kind of right smack dab in the middle of the intersect of a couple of them. And even though this funding is meant for rural connectivity, we live in a hub and spoke community. What Spokane and Millwood bring to our rural areas, not only in Spokane County, but in the counties around us, increases the vitality of everything that household, businesses, and anchor institutions use. So as we go forward with our member cities, we are strategically building out those digital highways, connecting to community anchor institutions, connecting to county-owned towers. We're connecting to water towers at Medical Lake and Deer Park for both fiber optic and high-capacity fixed wireless to make sure that everyone does have the new federal minimum. I call it broadband PBS, but it has been codified as 100 meg down and 20 meg up, which is pretty significant. Now, Mayor was saying that, technically Millwood is pretty well built out, but you have had some challenges of people actually getting that to their home. These are the things that we're partnering with our urban membership, whether it be the city of Spokane, Valley, yourselves. So again, these are the things that, we want to understand what are the things that the lack of a digital component is keeping you or your constituents from their next level, and that's what we serve to do. So again, I wanted to share with this, the other firms that you'll see represented here, although we weren't the lead, we still have very close relationships with them, with the exception of SpaceX, which I do think Eagle Ridge is not where you need low orbit satellite, but we're just going to leave that one over there. So we will be working with them on that. We are in the middle of several other builds besides this. We have 20 miles of fiber in South Spokane County, traversing Spangle, Latah, and Waverly, which is really exciting because those folks don't have anything. We're going live with Medical Lake and Deer Park Water Tower. We're just starting our build in a USDA Community Connect grant, which is up in just south of Deer Park for 400 households, and it's having a very innovative thing called a community center in a box. You can see that right there, and basically we have to run a digital navigation center as part of the conditions of the grant, but we really didn't want to be tied to brick and mortar. So again, in partnership with Fire District 4, this is going to live on one of their fire station parcels. They're going to get fiber to that fire station. This will have a server room, 2 HIPAA compliant meeting rooms, a flower box on the top for fun, and a 120-foot tower. Will serve the duration of the grant, but then it can go anywhere after that. So if we have another emergency operations center, if we have another fire, if we have, we need a mobile methadone clinic, wherever that is, this is a public asset that then is available for what is needed, and we're really excited about that. All right, next. We also facilitate something called the Broadband Action Team. Washington State is the only state in the country to where every county and tribe has a Broadband Action Team, affectionately called a BAT, that is basically an advisory group that helps advise and understand what are the digital needs. And that grant I just told you up in the USDA North Spokane County, that is a result of a constituent who lived up there and said, what can we do? And so again, we created that from the feedback and advice that was given to us that obviously went then to the board. I highly invite you, if you're interested, please join those BAT meetings. We have both in-person and virtual options. Our next one is this Friday. You go to our website, you can join in. We have about 200 individuals and probably 50 organizations that from all over the state that just talk about what does this mean? What does digital vitality mean? And it's just been really exciting to see what happens. Our state headwaters, which is the Washington State Broadband Office, is often on that as well. And we're just really excited to have them. Next, please. This is just an example of one of our urban partnerships. And again, we're using what the city of Spokane has invested in municipal fiber. That's an option that Millwood might want to think about. Do you want a fiber spur to your water tower to do monitoring? Those are things that, again, whether you do a municipal network, whether you have capacity, that is where we can then come alongside and help kind of what the vision is of the cities as our members, whether you're in the rural or urban area. Next, please. And the last thing I wanted to share with you is $1.24 billion in Washington State, $42 billion across the country is going to put us straight on workforce. And we're really excited about what we're doing in micro-certification pathways for folks that may, for a variety of reasons, be looking at something else. That, again, there's about 10 micro-certifications that if you put them together, a number of them have funding in and of themselves, make an ideal telecommunications worker. Next slide, please. And the other thing is there's jobs in both inside and outside. So some folks, whether they've been in the justice system, aren't able to do things that would be traditional workforce. It does not keep them from laying fiber optic cable in the middle of nowhere. And so again, there's pathways in and out. If you're tired of being freezing outside, there's crosswalks over into what's called the inside plant, or what does it mean to run these networks? And we're really excited about offering opportunities and confidence to folks in this industry that's really new and emerging, that's a combination of both trade and technology. So that was the short and sweet presentation about what Broadlink is. We're just excited to be able to serve our member cities and the county. And again, if this is of interest, I've shared those documents of how that works for Millwood to join. I think you guys are just really wonderful as part of what it means to be in Spokane County. And thank you again for the opportunity to join. So I've got a card and I'm going to leave you with a little swag here. So a little Broadlink sticker.
Thank you.
And I didn't know if you have time for questions, or I'm happy to come back at another date.
Questions from the council for Ms. Schmidt. One of the things is Broadlink has requested that we would consider an interlocal agreement between Millwood and Broadway, much as they've done with the other smaller jurisdictions. What I was thinking is that Brian has not had time to review that yet or anything, so it is obviously not in the packet tonight, but that it would be introduced for first reading at the council at the November meeting, and at that point, we can invite Arian back at that time, and folks would have a chance to review that, and then if there's additional questions, Brian could also basically give an idea in conjunction with Ariane about how this ILA would work in with conjunction with various franchises that we have approved for types of internet providers, ISPs, fiber companies, things like that. So I did want to get Ariane out here to kind of set the table for something coming out. But the intent is to bring something in for council to look over and hear some presentations and see how that might mesh with what we currently have going on.
Full disclosure, one of my partners is Broadlink's legal counsel. We've processed conflicts of waivers under these circumstances with other clients as well. So we would be bringing back a conflict waiver to the mayor and as well to, you've seen it before. So, and he's one of the good guys. He's easy to work with, as is his client. So, yeah.
So, any questions right now?
That sounds good.
Great. Thank you
Nice
very
to have you back.
Thank you very much. So that concludes our presentations for this evening. And so that brings us to item number 6, which is our public comments concerning our action items for this evening. Have we received any public comments by mail, by email, by slow train? Nothing on any of the action items? So these are. Yeah.
That would be for next, that's concerned, well.
But I'm talking about written stuff that's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we still have to have the 2 public hearings.
Right, no, he has a comment on some, a first read action item,
Okay.
so,
For as part of the public hearing.
no, not as part of the public hearing, a separate, one of the other ones, an ordinance on, item number C,
Okay.
8C.
All right. Well, since we don't have it in the form that we have it, I'll leave that to council. But per mail, electronic mail, or directly received prior to tonight's meeting, we have received no public comments. Okay. So that would be a no. So that brings us to item number 7, which is our executive session, which we do need, and we need that for about 30 minutes. Unless otherwise extended.
To be clear, there is a public remarks section per your public comment policy, there is a public remarks section that's coming up as well. So we're not foreclosing public comment, it's just that your policy provides for written comments so the council can consider that in advance for that section. So, okay.
Alright, so you want to read out what we need it for?
Yes. City Council will convene to executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110 subsection 1I, little Roman numeral 3 for 30 minutes unless otherwise extended by further announcement to discuss with legal counsel legal risks and or financial risk of proposed action of the city. The City Council may be asked to take action upon conclusion of the executive session tonight. Maybe.
And then we do need personnel.
Oh, excuse me, as well as RCW 4230-110 subsection 1G to evaluate the employment of public employee.
So 30 minutes. So Andy, you're gonna figure out, or somebody's just gonna turn Andy off.
Yes.
And I am going to take Andy downstairs and we will depart this room and I will call Andy back on his cell phone for the executive session.
Okay, sounds good.